The global wellness industry is worth more than $4 trillion. Every year, it promises a longer life through expensive powders, complicated protocols, and the next miracle supplement. Yet the foods generating some of today's most compelling research aren't new at all. They're ancient. Long before laboratories, people across the ancient Near East carefully observed which foods restored strength, fought infection, and helped people survive. These weren't random ingredients. They were traded like treasure, recorded in legal texts, preserved in royal archives, and woven into the daily life of entire civilizations. Some even appear throughout the Bible, not as symbols, not as decoration, but as practical substances used for healing, survival, recovery, and restoration. The Bible was never written as a medical textbook. Ironically, that's what makes these records so fascinating. Today we're opening 10 biblical healing foods that history refused to forget, and modern science keeps rediscovering. This isn't another list of healthy foods. It is a case file. 3, exactly. Each one examines ancient evidence, biblical history, and modern nutritional science to answer one question. Were these civilizations observing biological truths thousands of years before science could explain them? Pay close attention to number 4, because it is hiding in millions of kitchens right now, and one everyday cooking habit destroys much of the very compound that makes it so valuable. And number 10 has become one of the most studied foods for healthy aging, even though ancient physicians were recommending it nearly 2,000 years before modern neuroscience began asking the same questions. Stay until the end, because I'm giving you a 14-day challenge to test one of these yourself. If you want where ancient wisdom meets modern science is delivered to you every week, subscribe now and turn on notifications because there is much more ahead. Here are 10 biblical healing foods your body is desperately missing. Let's get right into it. Case File 1. The Ancient Defenders. 3 ordinary foods. 4,000 years of documented use. Not luxury. Not superstition. Just practical medicine hidden in plain sight. These were the ancient world's first defenders, and they may still be the most overlooked healing foods in your kitchen today. 1. Garlic, the ancient antibiotic. Numbers 11:5. The Israelites have escaped Egypt. They're free. But deep in the wilderness, one food keeps coming up in their memories. Garlic. Not bread. Not meat. Not wine. Garlic. That detail is surprisingly important. In the ancient world, garlic wasn't just something that seasoned food. It was considered valuable enough to become part of a worker's wages. Archaeological evidence from Egypt shows garlic being issued to pyramid laborers alongside bread and beer, not as a luxury, but as a daily necessity believed to preserve strength, endurance, and health. Even more remarkable, civilizations that never shared medical knowledge, including Egypt, India, and China, all reached the same conclusion independently. Garlic wasn't simply food, it was medicine. Modern science now explains why. When a garlic clove is crushed, 2 naturally separated compounds combine to produce allicin, a powerful sulfur compound responsible for garlic's antimicrobial activity and many of its cardiovascular benefits. No crushing, no allicin, and that's where most people accidentally destroy garlic's greatest advantage. Studies have shown allicin can inhibit a wide range of bacteria, including several antibiotic-resistant strains. Clinical reviews have also found regular garlic consumption can significantly reduce both systolic and diastolic blood pressure in people with hypertension. The ancient physicians never heard the word allicin. They didn't need to. They simply noticed that crushed garlic consistently worked better than whole cloves, and they repeated what worked for thousands of years. Here's the lesson most kitchens still miss. Crush the garlic first. Then leave it alone. Wait at least 10 minutes before cooking. That short pause allows the enzymatic reaction to finish producing allicin before heat begins destroying the enzyme responsible for making it. Only then should it go into the pan. Interestingly, many ancient preparations gently infused crushed garlic into olive oil rather than aggressively frying it, preserving far more of its active compounds than many modern cooking methods. Today we spend billions developing medications to protect the heart, fight infection, and lower blood pressure. Yet one of history's oldest civilizations was paying its workers with a food that modern laboratories are still trying to fully understand. The chemistry received a name only in the 20th century. The knowledge existed thousands of years earlier. And if garlic was that far ahead of its time, what else on this list has been waiting for science to catch up? 2. Honey, the golden healer. Proverbs 16:24 describes pleasant words as health to the bones. The comparison only works because everyone listening already knew something about honey. It healed, not as folklore, not as wishful thinking, as lived experience. That same conclusion appears across the ancient world. Egyptian physicians listed honey in hundreds of medical preparations. Greek soldiers packed it into wounds. Roman armies carried it into battle. Ayurvedic and Chinese healers prescribed it for infections and respiratory illness. Different civilizations, different continents, the same medicine. Modern science now explains the pattern. Raw honey naturally releases hydrogen peroxide when it contacts moisture, creating an environment hostile to harmful bacteria. It also contains antimicrobial compounds like methylglyoxal, defensin-1, and powerful polyphenols that attack microbes through multiple pathways at once. That's one reason bacteria struggle to develop resistance against it. Clinical studies have confirmed honey's effectiveness in wound healing, infected ulcers, and even relieving coughs in children. Some hospitals have gone full circle, bringing medical-grade honey back into modern wound care. Thousands of years later, the evidence points in the same direction. But preparation matters. Choose raw, unfiltered honey, not the ultra-processed versions heated, until many of their natural enzymes are diminished. Taken in the morning on an empty stomach, or at the first sign of throat irritation, held at the back of the throat rather than swallowed immediately. The color is relevant. Darker honeys, buckwheat, raw wildflower, carry significantly higher polyphenol concentrations than lighter varieties. The preparation is simple. The specificity matters. If your honey slowly crystallizes over time, don't throw it away. That's often a sign it has remained largely unprocessed. The ancient world didn't treasure honey because it tasted sweet. It treasured honey because it helped people survive in a world where infection was one of the greatest killers. 3,000 years of observation came first. Modern laboratories are simply explaining why. And if something this ordinary held secrets, science took centuries to uncover, what might be hiding inside the next ancient remedy? 3. Olive oil, the ancient anti-inflammatory. Luke 10:34. A traveler lies beaten beside the road. The Good Samaritan kneels beside him and does something modern readers often overlook. He pours oil and wine into the man's wounds before taking him to safety. To the first people hearing this story, that wasn't remarkable. It was standard treatment. Across Israel, Greece, Rome, and Egypt, olive oil was used to protect damaged tissue, soothe inflammation, and support healing. Wine helped disinfect. The oil created a protective barrier. Compassion followed medicine. Today, researchers understand why. Extra virgin olive oil contains oleocanthal, a natural compound that blocks inflammatory enzymes using the same biological pathway as ibuprofen. That peppery burn you feel at the back of your throat after swallowing high-quality olive oil? That's not a flaw. It's one of the signs that oleocanthal is present. The oil also contains oleuropein and dozens of antioxidant polyphenols linked to heart health, healthy blood pressure, and reduced inflammation. Large clinical studies have shown people following olive oil-rich diets experience significantly fewer major cardiovascular events. Ancient physicians never measured oleocanthal. They simply kept reaching for the same oil because they watched it work. If you want the greatest benefit, use fresh, extra virgin olive oil after cooking rather than exposing it to prolonged high heat. Look for a recent harvest date, dark glass packaging, and don't fear the slight bitterness or peppery finish. Those flavors are part of what you're paying for. Thousands of years before anti-inflammatory drugs existed, civilizations across the Mediterranean had already built an entire way of eating around this remarkable oil. The science finally caught up. But the next case file reveals something even more surprising. 3 foods. Thousands of years of continuous use. And every one of them has forced modern science to explain observations ancient civilizations had already written down. But those were only the familiar ones. The next case file moves beyond everyday staples into foods trusted during famine, disease, and physical collapse. One of them appears in the recovery of a dying king. Another is now being studied for its remarkable effects on cellular renewal and healthy aging. Case File 2, the Repair and Restoration System. Case File 1 revealed the ancient defenders. This file begins where everyday health ends. These 4 foods appeared during famine, exile, disease, and physical collapse, the moments when survival depended on choosing the right remedy. Ancient physicians reached for them when recovery seemed least likely. 4. Pomegranate, the fruit of renewal. Deuteronomy 8:8 names 7 foods that defined the Promised Land. One of them stood apart: the pomegranate. It decorated the high priest's robe, crowned Solomon's temple, and became a symbol of life, abundance, and renewal. That wasn't simply artistic taste. Ancient civilizations had already assigned extraordinary value to this fruit. Persian physicians prescribed it for digestive disorders. Egyptian healers used the peel against parasites. Greek and Roman doctors recommended it for infections and recovery. Different cultures. One conclusion: modern science now understands why. Pomegranates contain punicalagins, powerful antioxidants that are transformed by certain gut bacteria into compounds called urolithins, molecules now being studied for their role in clearing damaged mitochondria, supporting muscle function, and promoting healthy aging. Clinical research has also linked regular pomegranate consumption with improved blood vessel function and reduced progression of arterial plaque. But here's the part most people never hear. Much of the fruit's valuable polyphenols are concentrated in the white membrane and bitter compounds usually removed during commercial processing. The bitterness wasn't the problem. It was part of the medicine. Fresh seeds or homemade juice that includes some of the white pith retain far more of what researchers are studying today. Thousands of years before longevity science became fashionable, ancient civilizations had already elevated this fruit above nearly every other. The question is, how did they know? 5. Figs, the king's prescription. 2 Kings chapter 20. King Hezekiah is dying. The prophet Isaiah delivers devastating news: prepare for death. Then, unexpectedly, he gives a medical instruction: apply a poultice of figs. The king recovers and lives another 15 years. That raises an obvious question: why figs? The answer appears across history. Egyptian physicians used them for wounds. Greek doctors treated skin infections with them. Roman and Islamic medicine preserved the same practice for centuries. Different generations. The same remedy. Modern research points to compounds that help explain it. Fresh figs contain phycin, an enzyme capable of breaking down damaged tissue, along with antimicrobial compounds that have demonstrated antibacterial and antifungal activity. Their soluble fiber also nourishes beneficial gut bacteria while supplying minerals that support bone, heart, and digestive health. Preparation mattered then, and it still does. Fresh figs deliver the highest enzyme activity, especially when eaten with the skin intact. Dried figs remain valuable too. Just 2 or 3 with warm water each morning have supported healthy digestion across cultures for thousands of years. Isaiah couldn't explain phycin. He didn't know the chemistry. But he knew exactly what to prescribe. And that may be the most remarkable detail of all. 6. Lentils, the survival food. Genesis 25. Esau returns from the wilderness completely exhausted. So exhausted that he trades his birthright for 1 bowl of lentil stew. For centuries, the story has been told as a lesson about poor decisions. But there's another question worth asking: why lentils? Later, when King David fled for his life, his supporters brought food to restore weary soldiers. Lentils were on the list. Twice in Scripture. Twice during moments of extreme physical depletion. That wasn't an accident. Modern nutrition explains why. A single serving of lentils delivers an exceptional combination of plant protein, iron, folate, minerals, and one of the highest fiber contents of any common food. That fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria while producing compounds that help support the intestinal lining and regulate inflammation throughout the body. Just as important, lentils release energy slowly. Instead of causing a rapid spike and crash in blood sugar, they provide steady fuel when the body needs lasting recovery. Ancient cooks discovered another secret long before chemistry existed. They soaked lentils overnight. Today, we know that simple step reduces compounds that interfere with mineral absorption, allowing the body to absorb more iron and zinc. a squeeze of lemon after cooking boosts iron absorption even further. Esau didn't understand nutritional science. His body didn't need to. Sometimes the oldest survival foods remain the smartest ones. 6. Flaxseed, the forgotten seed. Isaiah 42:3 mentions a smoldering flax wick. To the ancient world, flax wasn't just a source of linen. Its tiny seeds were prized as medicine. In fact, flax is one of humanity's oldest cultivated crops, with a history stretching back nearly 9,000 years. Egyptian physicians used it. Hippocrates prescribed it. Charlemagne valued it so highly, he required its consumption throughout his empire. That kind of agreement across history deserves attention. Modern science has uncovered why. Flaxseed is one of nature's richest sources of plant omega-3 fats and lignanes, powerful compounds linked to heart health, hormone balance, and reduced inflammation. Its soluble fiber also supports healthy cholesterol levels, blood sugar control, and a thriving gut microbiome. But almost everyone makes the same mistake. They eat the seeds whole. Whole flaxseed often passes through the digestive system largely untouched. To unlock its nutrients, it should be freshly ground just before eating. 1 tablespoon added to oatmeal, yogurt, or a smoothie delivers far more benefit than swallowing whole seeds. 9,000 years ago, civilizations invested in this remarkable crop without knowing the words omega-3 or lignans. They simply knew it worked. Science has finally learned the vocabulary. The ancient observation came first. So far, every discovery has come from ordinary foods. But the final case file leaves the kitchen behind. These were the ancient world's rarest remedies, treasured like gold, guarded by kings, and reserved for moments when medicine reached its limits. And modern science may have underestimated them the most. Case File 3. The Forgotten Pharmacy. The first case file revealed everyday defenders. The second uncovered foods of survival and recovery. Now we arrive at the ancient world's hidden pharmacy. Rare substances valued like treasure, preserved in sacred spaces, and remembered long before science understood why they mattered. 8. Frankincense, the gift of kings. Matthew 2:11. When the wise men arrived, they brought 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, myrrh. Most people remember the symbolism. Few stop to ask why frankincense belonged beside gold. Because in the ancient world, it wasn't simply incense. It was one of the most valuable medicinal substances on earth. Harvested from boswellia trees, frankincense traveled thousands of miles through Arabia, India, Egypt, and Rome. Physicians across these civilizations prescribed it for inflamed joints, digestive disorders, wounds, and chronic illness. Different cultures. The same remarkable resin. Modern science now knows what they couldn't explain. Frankincense contains boswellic acids, natural compounds that calm inflammation by blocking a pathway different from the one targeted by ibuprofen. Clinical studies have shown boswellia extracts can improve joint function and reduce pain in people with osteoarthritis, while researchers continue investigating its role in inflammatory bowel disease and brain health. But one discovery surprised scientists. When frankincense is burned, it releases compounds that may influence areas of the brain involved in mood and emotional regulation. Perhaps that's one reason it became so closely associated with places of worship. The ancient world treasured frankincense because it consistently produced results. Modern laboratories simply uncovered the chemistry behind the tradition. The gift wasn't expensive because it was rare. It was expensive because it was valuable. 9. Hyssop, the sacred cleanser. Psalm 51:7. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. David wasn't choosing a random plant. Hyssop appears at some of the Bible's most important moments, from the first Passover in Egypt to the crucifixion of Christ. The same plant keeps returning. Why? Because ancient people already associated it with cleansing, not only spiritually, physically. Roman physicians prescribed hyssop for coughs and lung infections. Medieval monasteries cultivated it in their medicinal gardens. Islamic physicians preserved the same tradition for centuries. Modern analysis reveals why. Hyssop contains antimicrobial essential oils, antioxidant compounds, and rosmarinic acid, a plant chemical now studied for antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. Preparing it correctly matters. A gentle tea made from the flowering tops preserves far more of its active compounds than excessive boiling. Many traditions paired it with raw honey, creating a combination that supported both the throat and respiratory system. David didn't know the names of the compounds. He knew the plant. Generation after generation had already learned what it could do. Sometimes history preserves medicine long before science gives it a vocabulary. 10. Walnuts, the ancient brain food. Walnuts, the ancient brain food. Song of Songs 6:11 speaks of a grove of walnut trees. To the ancient world, walnuts were far more than food. Greek physicians prescribed them. Persian scholars recommended them for the brain. Roman armies carried and cultivated them across Europe. Civilizations separated by centuries kept arriving at the same conclusion. Modern neuroscience is beginning to understand why. Walnuts are uniquely rich in plant omega-3 fats, powerful polyphenols, vitamin E, and compounds that support healthy blood vessels and protect nerve cells from oxidative stress. Large clinical studies have linked regular walnut consumption with healthier cholesterol levels and improved cardiovascular health, while ongoing research continues exploring their relationship with memory and healthy brain aging. But there's one detail almost everyone overlooks. The thin brown skin covering the walnut contains many of its most valuable antioxidants. It's slightly bitter. That's exactly why many people remove it. Ironically, that's also where much of the benefit is found. 7 whole walnuts a day, skin included, provide one of the simplest habits on this entire list. Ancient physicians recognized this nut as food for the mind. Modern science is still uncovering just how right they were. Sometimes the oldest prescription is also the simplest. The final food in this video is the one the research keeps returning to, and the one that connects everything this investigation had the simplest. 10 foods. 3 case files. 1 unmistakable pattern. Again and again, ancient civilizations identified the same healing foods centuries before chemistry, microbiology, or clinical trials could explain why they worked. They didn't have modern laboratories. They had generations of careful observation. Science didn't replace that knowledge. It gave it a language. And perhaps the greatest lesson hidden in these ancient records is this: sometimes the oldest wisdom isn't outdated. It's simply waiting for us to understand it again. Here's my challenge to you. For the next 14 days, don't try all 10 foods. Choose just one. Crush your garlic before cooking. Use raw honey instead of processed sweeteners. Add freshly ground flaxseed to breakfast. Eat 7 walnuts with their skins. Or finish your meals with extra virgin olive oil. Stay consistent. Pay attention. The civilizations that preserved these foods didn't rely on them occasionally. They built daily life around them. So which case file or biblical healing food surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with someone who would appreciate it. Subscribe to Rooted Heritage and hit the notification bell. The next investigation goes even deeper. See you on the next one, and thank you for watching.